Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Gaza has witnessed more fierce fighting with a live feed capturing sounds of explosions and bright flames on the horizon. Israel has been bombing Gaza since the 7th of October, when Hamas attacks killed 1,400 people, with 239 people kidnapped as hostages. The Israeli military says it's killed dozens of Hamas fighters, having earlier said its troops had broken through the group's defensive lines. But thousands of innocent people are suffering in the retaliatory strikes. The Hamas-run health ministry says up to 1,000 people had earlier been killed, injured or missing after Israeli strikes in a refugee camp at Jabalia. Meanwhile, people are continuing to crowd at the gates bordering Egypt as more foreigners prepare to leave. A diplomatic source said some 7,500 foreign passport holders would leave Gaza over the next 2 weeks.
20 Australians, plus 2 family members and a permanent resident, were able to cross the border at Rafah, out of Gaza into Egypt. When Israel's friends urge Israel to exercise restraint, when Israel's friends urge Israel to protect civilian lives, it is critical that Israel listens. It matters for Israel's own security, which faces grave risks if the conflict spreads.
An Australian woman has been charged with murder over the suspected mushroom poisoning deaths of 3 people. Erin Patterson was arrested on Thursday morning and police have spent the day searching her home east of Melbourne. The 49-year-old had served the family lunch, after which the trio, who included her former in-laws, fell ill. A 4th person survived. Toxicology reports suggest the victims consumed death cap mushrooms. Ms. Patterson maintains she is innocent.
Homicide Squad investigators have previously interviewed this woman in relation to an incident that occurred on the 29th of July where 4 people fell ill following taking part in a meal at a private residence there in Leongatha. 3 of those people, Heather Wilkinson, Gail Patterson and Don Patterson, unfortunately passed away in hospital following taking part in that meal.
National flags have flown at half-mast across China as the country put its former premier Li Keqiang to rest. Chinese President Xi Jinping and his wife paid their final respects to the former Premier Li at a Beijing cemetery where high-ranking officials and national heroes are laid to rest. Flags across the country were flown at half-mast, but there was muted state coverage of his funeral, in stark contrast to the outpouring of sorrow among ordinary Chinese people. He was once tipped to be China's future leader, but he was overtaken and then swiftly sidelined by Xi Jinping, who has centralized power in his own hands during his more than 10 years at the helm. A lorry driver has been killed in France after coastal regions of northern Europe were hit by gale force winds of 128 miles per hour. Storm Ciarán made landfall in Brittany and Normandy in France and southern England. Hundreds of schools have closed across the UK and train lines have been disrupted. There are currently 7,000 homes without power in Cornwall. And the largest internally flawless, fancy, vivid blue diamond ever put up for auction could sell for up to $50 million. Known as Blue Royale, this vivid blue diamond, which is set in a ring, is among the rarest ever to be unearthed. The auctioneer will also be presenting a Rolex wristwatch worn by Marlon Brando in the 1979 movie Apocalypse Now, on the back of which the actor engraved his signature to avoid having it swapped accidentally during shooting.
What makes Bleu Royale so rare and special is its size. At 17.6 carats, it's the largest of its kind. It's a pear-shaped, brilliant cut diamond. What that means is it's a classical cut. It has not been modified with additional facets to help enhance the color. And so the color is very rich naturally, and it is internally flawless, as best as can be.
And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.